to thank the grace of heaven, virtue of masters, mercy of transmitters, and the confidence placed by our senior lecturers and all of you for this opportunity to talk about the Analects. Anyone, I'm sure a lot of us here are already familiar with this book, the Analects. It's one of the 4 books of Confucianism, and these 4 books are very important classics for the Tao cultivation because they really relate to our everyday life, how we can really profess the Tao, how we can make our Buddha nature manifest in our daily, very specific details in our life. Okay, and today we are going to start talking about chapter 1. But because I guess this is the first time the English class is talking about the Analects, and so I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to the Analects as a whole. Okay, let's go to this second slide. So this book is a collection of teachings and dialogues or discourses between Confucius and his followers or his disciples. You will see in the entire Analects that they are usually very short sentences, and a lot of times there are questions by Confucius' disciples, and then Confucius will either answer the questions, and also in later chapters it will be his disciples such as Zhengzi, Zigong, and Youzi, and some of his some of his good disciples. Some more enlightened disciples would also address questions by their fellow learners. And then the author of the book, supposedly his disciples. It's like a recording. Or a written form of the dialogues and the conversations between Confucius and his disciples. The compilation of the book started in the Warring State period, which is about 475 to 221 BC. But it really achieved its final form. So it came to the conclusion in Mid-Han Dynasty, which is 206 BC to 220 AD. But originally, the Analects was regarded as just a commentary on the 5, we call the 5 sutras, or the 5 classics, which would be the Book of Rites, Book of the Book of Change, or I Ching, the Book of Song, the Song, Rites, and then Shi Jing,
History.
Poetry, Book of Poetry, and then I Ching, But then because of its very versatile nature, that the fact that it's very helpful to our daily life, that philosopher Zhu Xi of the Song Dynasty really gave it much provenance. And so it was in late Song Dynasty that the Analects was included as one of the 4 books. Okay, now in this, and also Zhu Xi, the philosopher, he kind of categorized the 4 books. He said the Great Learning, the book that I shared a few months ago, was something that set the tone of cultivation of our life's mission. Okay, we talk about that our life's mission is to perfect ourselves, to restore our Buddha nature, and also to help others. The second mission is to help others awaken to their Buddha nature. And the third goal is that together we can all arrive at the state of perfection, or we say nirvana, or we say anuttara samyak sambodhi. Okay, perfect enlightenment. So the great learning set the tone or the scope of the cultivation or our life's mission. But this analects, it kind of tackles daily life. You will see that there will be very detailed instruction on how we carry ourselves, how we conduct, how we talk, how we do things in any given situation. There are 20 chapters in this book, the Analects, and each chapter has different numbers of passages. Some are shorter, others are long, as long as maybe 40, 50 passages in one chapter. So together there are 492 passages in this book. The Analects talks about a wide range of themes. First and foremost, the 8 virtues that we often talk about. Okay, anyone remember the 8 virtues? Because it's going to be mentioned throughout the Analects many times. From time to time. So, what are the 8 virtues?
Filial piety,
brotherhood,
loyalty, trust, propriety,
righteousness,
integrity, and sense of shame.
Thank you so much, Jean. Okay, yeah, and it also often talks about cardinal relationship and how one should play the role in different relationships. It also talk about education. We also as we read on, we notice how Confucius would use different methods to teach different disciples based on their background, their quality, and even for the same notion of virtue. For example, Ren, he gives different explanation to different disciples because where they're lacking, where they need improvement, and so he would use that kind of situation or that kind of incident as a way to impart that notion to the disciples. He also talk about governance, how the ruler or the emperor, the king, should run the country. And there's also politics. 为政, yeah, right.
That's where 君子之齐 comes
Right.
from.
Yeah, so we know that there are 20 chapters, and although they're not really, it's kind of loosely, put together, but there's still a theme for each chapter. And just like Lecturer Kai mentioned, there was a chapter that was dedicated to, the way of politics, the governance. So we can say the Analects is a manual, or it's a handbook that will guide cultivation in our daily life. Okay. For example, in one of the passage, Confucius said when he passed someone, past a funeral procession, he would always be very lower his head, kind of bow and let them go. This is to show the proper respect for people who are going through, that kind of process. Yeah, and that's something we also should learn. Yeah, I think if we cultivate well, or if we are with our Buddha nature, in this type of situation, although they're not really related to us, but when we see such things, we also, would be, solemn. Now the Analect, it's so very practicable, and it's very handy because it talks about daily life, even how food should be prepared. It also talks about our demeanors, our behavior, our conducts, what we should talk, what we should not talk, things like that. And so one of the prime minister from the Song Dynasty said that if we can use only half of the information from the Analects, or half volume of the Analects, one can govern the entire country. So that's how powerful the Analects teachings are. And then also, we know that the Analects is part of the Confucius' contribution to this world, and his philosophy, his idea, and his thoughts have remained very helpful. Although it's already it was about 4,000 years ago, and so even his wisdom was recognized by people, in China and across the world. As you can see, there's a quote by a Sweden physicist. He said, if mankind is to survive, it must go back 25 centuries in time to tap the wisdom of Confucius. Yeah. When I first came to USA, that was in 1996. And I had a friend. Some of you have met him, Daryl Bill. He sent me a lot of clippings from the Analects, and at that time I wasn't really so knowledgeable about the Analects, and I just feel so ashamed. But they really treasure the sayings or the quotations from the Analects. And today I'm going to start with chapter 1. Okay, in chapter 1 there are 6 passages.
16.
And 16. Did I say 15?
Sections. Well,
said
yeah,
six.
yeah. Section.
Okay. This is a very important chapter. It's almost like a preface, and it talks about the fundamentals of a noble person, or it kind of sums up the main points of what the entire Analect is going to talk about. So what are the fundamental qualities? We notice that Confucius keeps talking about filial piety and brotherhood, talks about benevolence, being respectful, and also being loyal. Okay, so this is what this chapter mainly talks about, the fundamental quality. So it's something, it's a gateway to the Tao. Okay, it's like get our foot in this cultivation, in the learning of the Tao. Thank you. There are a few key terms. Actually, I have not completed this list. You often talk in Chinese. You often hear about Junzi, Confucius, and his disciple often talk about Junzi. Okay, Junzi is a person who has very high moral standards and probably is also very well learned or well read. And very capable. Although Junzi, in its most literal sense, can mean the ruler of a country, like a king, a leader, yeah. Or it can also be just a scholar. And then also you often hear 子曰, okay, it means the 子 means master. Here means master. Usually it's someone who is very well educated and also has good moral. And we also, you'll hear about the jing, which means respect or respectfulness. And then the bada is the 8 virtue we talk about. You also hear about zhong, means loyalty. Okay. Now here comes the first passage. Okay. I think I'm going to read it because this is going to be recorded, and if you read, then people who listen to class online may not hear clearly. So the master said, "Isn't it a pleasure to learn and practice what you have learned? Isn't it also great when friends visit from distant places? If people do not recognize me and it doesn't bother me, am I not a noble or superior man?" Okay, so this is like talks about the most important idea, concepts, in all this Confucianism. Okay, okay, to learn and practice. There's the Chinese word 学而时习之. A lot of people in China may not be very familiar with the entire content of the Analects, but a lot of times, many people are very familiar with this first passage. It's like a household, phrase. Everyone can say it, but I don't. Now that I'm in temple, I don't think everybody really grasps, the deeper meaning. Okay, so literally means we learn, but here 时 means it means appropriately. It doesn't mean from time to time. When we learn something, we also put this knowledge to use whenever the situation or the circumstances arise. So we use what we learn appropriately. We apply what we learned in our conducts. And so this give us a lot of joy, a lot of delightment. Okay, according to Lecture Liu from Taiwan, he said, this 学而, there's a traditional Chinese handwriting for this. If you look at the top line, it's going to be the fourth word. There is a traditional way of writing this word. And Lecture Liu, he said actually this has what we could say the first treasure in that word. So to learn about our Buddha nature, and we should also practice our Buddha nature, and that's going to give us a lot of joy, a lot of maybe gratification, a lot of enlightenment. Okay, and then when we have friends coming afar to visit us, aren't we happy? Okay, again, here friends can mean someone who we have common value, we have common background, common interests, and so we learn about all these principles here. And now, if we have someone who we can talk about this principle with, and they're going to also resonate with us, isn't it great, right? Then we have a lot of common language, a lot of common interest. But Lecture Liu also said, this friend is some special friend. Okay, Lecture Kai.
No. See, most of us when we read all these classics, especially the classics, even Buddhist sutras, the external. See, we all our level of understanding is always on the external. So we learn something. So it's knowledge. So it's external. Yeah, we learn how to behave. We learn morality. We learn all that stuff. Yeah, but that's still external. But actually, the higher level means that's why we learn Buddha nature class. It's really you learn about your Buddha nature. You really understand your Buddha nature. That's the share.
Yeah,
that's
right.
the real, the highest level you can say. So that's internal. So that's the internal share. That you learn. It's like almost like 常住真心. It's in the what sutra is that? Surangama Sutra. That says we have to be always at one with our true nature, with our Buddha nature. It's a similar idea. Similar. And then the other one, the second phrase is about our friends. It's not our friend. Yeah, that's external. Friends, family, whatever. Internally, it's our Buddha nature. We rediscover, or we can say, quote unquote, we rediscover our true friend, which is our true master, which is our Buddha nature. That's really what it means. So that's the higher level.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's really what it means. So similar to what Buddha said. Actually, 君子不器 is the same idea.
Yeah.
It's 如是. 如是. It's the same thing. If you want to get the highest level, 君子不器 is the same as 如是. It's the same thing. 如是. 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 Yeah, 如来 is a title, but 如是 is 空跟有. It's 本体跟功用. That's it. That's what 如是. That's what it means.
Yeah.
So 君子不器 is the same idea. 如是. Same idea, just looking from a different perspective.
Yeah, we have the perfect wisdom. We can be whatever we
Yeah.
need to be.
Because it's part of your Buddha nature. 如 is our Buddha nature. 是 is just the application, the countless, infinite wisdom. You can say wisdom, the manifestation of that wisdom. So therefore, you're not a tool. Because regardless of any condition, your Buddha nature can adapt to it. Not adapt, yeah, can manage it. You can say manage it or whatever, can deal with it. We can say deal with it. Okay? That's the same thing. I mean, it's the same thing. So that's the higher level. That's why we learn about Buddha nature, folks. We don't want to just, like in China, yeah, they learn this at school. They learn that, they can memorize it, left and right. But they only understand the surface meaning or the external aspect. Yeah, we have to learn knowledge. We have to get knowledge. But that's external. That's not the highest level. What Confucius was saying is, know your Buddha nature. Hello, learn about your Buddha nature.
It's beyond.
Yeah. So that's the internal side. Make sense?
Yeah, because we all have this Buddha nature,
Yeah,
but
it's innate.
through all the cycles of reincarnation, we are not aware of it anymore. But through the initiation, we are reawakened to the Buddha nature, or we rediscover our Buddha nature. So this Buddha nature is like a friend coming afar.
Right. Yeah, it's like you kind of rediscovered it.
Yeah.
You came back to it, or you come back to it. It's rediscovered. You can say rediscovered.
Yeah, and so the last sentence is when people don't know that we are very well cultivated, or that we have this skill, that we have this capability, and we still are not upset, we are not bothered because people don't recognize us or they don't appreciate us, and if we can just kind of let it down or shrug it off, then that's a noble person or a superior person. Okay, remember we talk about 君子, that's one of the concepts in the Analects or through all the classics of Confucianism. So actually from this, there's a lot to learn from these 3 sentences. Okay, now first, what is a true knowledge? Okay, we also talked about that learning earlier in the first class. So the true learning is, first of all, it has to be something that's going to benefit us, benefit our spirituality, to nourish our soul. It's also going to be helpful to other living beings, other sentient beings. Okay, so this is the true knowledge. But sometimes when we just become indulge in something, some of the readings may not be so, we say, healthy, quote unquote healthy, right? Doesn't help with our virtue, doesn't help with the morale, then we should not be reading them. But if we read for the sake of helping other people, that's good knowledge. And then there's another dimension to the true knowledge, is that when we learn, we don't just stop at learning. We have to apply the learning to our life. We should really act on our learning. Only when we can do that, then we can say we are truly.
That's true.
We are really learned.
Right.
Yeah, we are going to talk about that in.
So it's not just being a scholar.
Yeah.
I have a PhD, or I have 20 PhDs, but you don't do anything. What good is that? That's just knowledge.
Right.
That's not really true learning.
Yeah.
True learning is to put into use, to practice. You can say to practice. Practice what you've learned, or
Yeah.
practice But that's even superficial for that.
So at this point, I want to pause and talk about something we are doing at the temple now. We are having some groups of people that are going to help motivate people, inspire people to come back to the temple. So this will be like people who come to temples more regularly, who has the passion in helping other people discover or learn about their Buddha nature. So we get together, we talk about these DAO members, how we can help them, and we are going to also maybe, do some outreaching programs, like visit them, help them with their some very, like some real situation problems and things like that. So at first I was like, I'm already so busy. Do I have time for this? We all like to stay in the comfort zone. Learning is a pleasure for me always. I love learning, but if I just I'm just happy with that. Then I think I really waste my time here learning all of this, because our mission really is to help people bring their Buddha nature to work for them. Yeah, and because if they don't come to temple, they won't be able to learn. They might not be able to. They know that they don't know how to really cultivate, or they don't know how to bring their Buddha nature to work for them, and so it requires a lot of people to help. So many DAO members in our temple. So on second thought, I feel very fortunate and very grateful that we are having these groups. So each of us will give each other a push, and this is the only way that we can really probably accomplish something. If there is no such external pressure, can say pressure, challenge, probably we will be just staying in the comfort zone. We would be just talking about all the theories, the principles, and I guess it's not going too far. We are not going too far with just talking and learning, and so we have to be on our foot, okay, doing things now, and so I'm very happy, and I personally also go through that process, and I think because of all this learning and the environment and also Buddha's encouragement, I think the process is a little is shorter now. Very quickly I realized that this is my opportunity to do something really solid, something really practical for other people. Okay.
Before you leave the slide, the last phrase, last sentence, it's also very similar to. Yeah, I mean you summarized that's good. That's not binding form. It's very similar to what? Diamond Sutra, Li Xiang Ni. Same idea. Same idea. At the highest level, of course, at the highest level, at the highest. Now, 君子 in Confucian, okay, yeah, but not here. I mean, yes, it means a noble person, a superior person. It's very similar to, you can say, the counterpart in Buddhism. They call it an awakened person, or an aware person who has awareness. But there are different levels. Obviously, supposedly 52 levels of awareness, whatever. Awakened, Bodhi mind, one who's awakened, Bodhi, Puti. So 君子 is similar to that. That's what I'm saying. If you want to, equate the two, in Buddhism and Confucianism, that's what it means. So it makes sense that Confucius is talking about enlightenment too, even though on the surface, what's enlightenment? There's nothing there. It's just saying you have to learn. You're happy with friends. You don't abide in forms. You're not attached to anything. What is enlightenment, right? Nothing to do. But actually it is. Because 君子 is the person, it's the same thing who is a person who has bodhi mind, puti xing, right? Puti xing. So it's an awakened person. It's an awakened 觉, or, 提醒, awakened person. But there are different levels too, okay? So 君子 has different levels too, right? So 君子 just means that to become awakened. So Confucius hinting, he sort of hinted, I said, to become enlightened. You say, you mentioned Virginia earlier, Anuttara Sambodhi, right? Right? Okay. In order to attain that level, the highest level, Anuttara Sambodhi, which is called supreme perfect enlightenment, you have to be a Junzi first. You have to be a Junzi, or superior person, which is equivalent to the counterpart in Buddhism. He says you have to have an awakened mind, a bodhi mind, get it? To become enlightened, right? So that's why now we can make the case that Confucius is also talking about enlightenment. All right, that's the connection.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lecturer Kai. Well, it reminds me to talk about something else. Yeah, the background of the Confucianism. He was born in a Warring State period where there was so much disorder in the world, and in his time, all these smaller countries were in like warfares. They were trying to seize the territory of other people, and everyone was just greedy, and so Confucius felt the need, or he felt that it's his mission to bring order to this disorderly world. So in surface, he was spreading the teaching, but in essence, he was really transmitting the Tao too, transmitting the truth. Yeah. So there were many also legends contributing to the fact that he is an incarnated being. Okay. When he was very young, he was very interested in learning about the rituals. All this process, the procedures in doing the offering. As a young child, he was very interested in that. Okay, and so he was bent on restoring propriety, the rituals, harmony to the society. Yeah, so we know that he upholds a society of great harmony. Yeah, and he was actually able to do it when he was a local official. He was able to really change the entire place into a very safe place where people did not have to lock their door when they left home. And when there were people, money lying on the ground, no one would pick it up and just possessed it. Yeah, and so because of his ability, he was promoted to be some kind of also a premier or prime minister. But later on, because of the king, some of the king did not share his ideal, and so he had to go from country to country to advocate his idea of harmony. Okay, yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so Youzi is one of his disciples, and this Youzi is, I think, almost 30 years Confucius Jr. So some of his disciples are very, very, very young. Okay, but they were also very intelligent, very enlightened, disciples. They also talk about something very, very. What is the word? They talk about something that really hit the target. Okay, like this one, Youzi said, there are few who have developed themselves this is the one I didn't change. Well, actually, I've developed filial piety and fraternity. Who enjoy offending, but enjoy offending their superiors. Let me put it another way. So they are not people who has filial piety and fraternity, or we say brotherhood, but they still enjoy offending people or their superior. Okay.
I don't.
Yeah. And similarly, those who do not like offending superiors are never troublemakers. Okay, so you see the relationship, the what is it? Correlation? Correlation, yeah, between being filial and being fraternal, and being what we say a model, what do you call, a good citizen. Okay, yeah. So when a person is filial, he has also love for his siblings. Then he's usually a person who is very respectful, and he will not do, create any disorder in the society. We talk about that in during Dharma class, in lecture Jane's class, how filial piety is the precursor to all kinds of human kindness. Okay, and according to Book of Virtue, Book of Filial Piety. This is a book Confucius wrote for one of his disciples, Zhengzi. We talked about Zhengzi last time when we talked about the Great Learning. He is the author of the Great Learning, and in the book of in the Sutra of Filial Piety, Confucius said filial piety is the foundation of virtue. Yeah, and filial piety is also what all the moral teaching is about. Yeah, so this is really the first and foremost important virtue that a person should have. And if the person is to be filial, guaranteed that he's going to be a good person. He's going to be an asset or a positive, and we say a positive addition to any place the person is associated with. We can see so many examples. Do you have anything to add? Yeah, so in this first chapter, Confucius talks so much about being filial and being fraternal, filial piety and brotherhood. Yeah, because usually when we are filial to our parents, then we don't want to bring disgrace to them, right? We want to put them at ease, want them to be. Okay, I guess time is up.
Is there another ceremony?
Yeah.
But they did it over there.
Maybe another talk.
No. Okay. I'm sorry. Did I go into too much detail?
This class.
Okay.
That's also external. There's an internal interpretation.
Okay. I want to thank. I'm sorry.
No,
I want to ask for forgiveness of Buddhas and saints if I said anything wrong, and also ask you to help me, correct me. Thank you.